It usually helps when you actually set your settings to be a public live chat. Usually that's how that happens. I was actually talking to nobody but me for about 2 minutes before I realized what happened. So, uh, here we are. It's the live show, and it is noon on Thursday, the 20th of September. Here's some cool stuff that's happening. I just got an email from Heather Mitchell. She is over in Paris right now. She gave me a quick report of what the Corrals are doing right now. There are 5 Corrals, and hello, Maria. Happy Thursday to you. There are 5 Corrals, and she was really worried about being put back in the last corral, but she's in Corral B. I guess there are a lot of other folks that kind of got, I don't know if they got misplaced. It sounded from her very brief email that they were misplaced. If you, after the fact, come back and see this video, I want to hear your story. What corral did you end up in? If you are actually in Paris now for the Disneyland Paris Half Marathon weekend, let me know. Anne, are you there now? Hi, Anne. Hi, Lori. Are you in Paris right now? Are you participating in that? I know you were talking about going, but let me know. So the corrals look kind of interesting. After the fact, when you guys are back from Paris, I would love to hear how this goes. You're still going, but you're in London right now. Okay, very cool. So that was kind of an interesting bit of information that I got, a little bit of reconnaissance from Heather over there. So I'm looking forward to hearing about how that goes. I'm seeing lots of people's photos on Facebook for Paris, and yes, corrals open at different times. Okay. I'm actually, for a while there, we were going to go because this, my husband and I, this would be our first anniversary weekend. At the time when there was a period of time where Dave and I were talking, well, maybe we should, maybe we should go to Paris. Let's just think about doing that. We decided not to, for a variety of reasons, not really anything major, but it was just one of those things like, after all the travel that we did last year, do we really need to add an international trip in the middle of all of this? So we decided against Disneyland Paris half weekend. Glad we decided that. He's been working diligently on finishing off his condo so he can get that sold. We're still working on that. That's going to be a big push this weekend to get that done. If we had been planning a trip to Paris in the middle of all that, I think stress levels would have been through the roof. Yeah. So we decided not to do that. Oh, interesting. Key Lime, do you want to try samples of a sunscreen for runners I got from a Kickstarter campaign? Key Lime, I'm going to send you a private message. I would love to try that from the Kickstarter. What kind of sunscreen is it? That's kind of interesting. So that is what's happening. Paris will still be there when you're ready. Yes, it's true. It's like I want to get into the parenting piece of this too a little bit, because William asked some questions about that. But like right now, I am at a really fun time in my parenting journey, and it's definitely, I have two hats, 2 big hats that I wear during the day, and I'll have to, I have other things that I have going on too, but this is one hat, right? Video and running coach and running and that whole fitness journey. That is one big hat. And then I have family, and that is, as soon as 3 o'clock rolls around and my son comes off the bus, this video, running, all of that stuff gets pushed aside because we have homework and we have tutoring and we have piano and we have this, that, and the other. And he requires a lot of attention, even when he's just kind of working on his own and doing his own thing. I find that I need a certain amount of concentration when I'm doing stuff like this. So when he's here, I don't want to focus so heavily on what I'm going to do for this channel that I'm ignoring him. So that's kind of been my, if you will, my parenting style, I guess, as we go through, as I've kind of evolved as a mom. When he was in the house, whatever he was doing, I was on call for him all the time. So what William asked, and William, if you're here, drop a note, but he asked a question about being a runner and what I think is being a new parent. It sounds like from his comments that he's actually his wife is expecting, and that when you get close to that due date, how do you balance the running and the parenting and the support that you need to offer? And I can't speak to the dad side. Okay. I can't. Can I speak to the mom side? Absolutely. As a mom, we go through, if we are actually delivering a child, we go through a major physical change. We can talk about adoption and all of those other ways in which you can become a parent. But for me, physically, the number of changes that the female body goes through, and not just over 9 months, but then the 9 months to a year after that, as your body recovers from that. So how do we deal with that as runners? Okay, if you're running and you want to try to have kids, the biggest thing is that you need to talk to your doctor, because it can be that we run too much, and that, I can't remember, I want to say it's amenorrhea. Basically, women will stop menstruating and it becomes an issue, and you can't, because your body is basically in a starvation mode. When we are marathon training and trained so long, the way my nutritionist says, it's like we go into primal preservation mode. Okay. Our bodies start shutting down systems it doesn't need. Okay. It's doing everything it can to be ready to go, because when we're running this much, it's like our bodies think we're running from something. Okay. That we are being chased either by wild animals, or there is something that we have to get away from. Okay. So our bodies don't know. Okay. We have to learn, we have to make sure that we balance that. Okay. Are we going to spend the time and the effort and the energy to build a family, or are we going to run? Sometimes we have to make the choice on how extreme we're going to go in either direction. There is a balance. There is a balance, and that's something that your doctor can tell you about. However, if you are a dad or a dad to be, I will tell you that I was talking with Karen about this up in Seattle this weekend. If you're a dad or a dad to be, and your wife, your significant other, says it's fine, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's kind of not. So just make sure that, or it could be, but she wants to be supportive of you too. She doesn't want it. We don't want to take you away from your thing either, but we do need support. I can tell you, and I know I see a lot of ladies in here. I can tell you personally, ladies, chime in on this. I am terrible at asking for help. Terrible. I feel selfish. I feel like I do not like asking for help. And so my husband will even say, well, let me know how I can help. It's like, uh, thanks. I don't want to ask for help. And so it's really hard for me to not only just ask, but to know really what to ask for, right? Yeah, Maria, I don't like asking for help. So that's when it comes to adding that parenting piece in it. I will tell you that there is no greater I still haven't found a greater understatement in the history of the English language. Having a baby changes your life. No greater understatement ever. Okay. It is tough to forget running for a second. Building a family and bringing somebody else into this world that all of a sudden they just send you home after a couple of days, and all of a sudden, you're in charge of this living creature. Try to keep it alive. Yeah. Guys, it is hard, and guys and gals, okay? It is hard, especially in that first 3 to 6 months, maybe longer, when you're learning how to live off of no sleep, little to no sleep. Hi, Susie. Hi, Linda. Welcome. Hi, Elizabeth. It's just, and if you're just joining us, we are actually talking about parenting and running and how to find that balance. If you guys have questions for me, throw them in the comments. Okay, really do. I have to say that I didn't become a runner until after I became a mom. So I was a triathlete before that, and certainly not very. I don't like to use the word serious, but I wasn't. Okay, I was just kind of learning how to be an athlete. And then I became a mom. So I was learning how to be a mom. And I was using running then as a way to manage the stress. Now, for me and my personal journey, I was separated and divorced within the first 2 years of my son's life. So all of a sudden, I have to deal then with single parenting issues, right? That's a different thing also, okay? How do you balance getting the running in and still being a good parent and still being a good spouse? Okay. Here's the little known secret. There's no such thing as achieving balance and keeping it there. If you think about physically standing on a balance beam, you can't just relax. Okay. If we're just standing on, if we think about that simile, if you will, once we relax, we lose our balance. We have to constantly be adjusting. Okay. Balance is something that is a constant evaluation. Okay. There is no such thing as hitting balance. Yes, I have hit my stride. Now everything is going to be fine because I know what the balance is. We don't get to relax on that. We don't get to get complacent about this. So when we have multiple things happening in our lives. So for us, running is a constant with all of us, right? It can be assumed. Then we have some of us who are parents to be, looking at that topic. Maybe it's not even parenting, but we have a demanding job. Okay. Maybe we want to try something harder or different, and there's someone else in your world that you have to consider. Okay. So when we're talking about, the idea of finding that balance, it's all about communication, right? Which is also hard. So it's just like, it goes back to the question of, how am I going to ask for help? Okay. In a way that that isn't, passive aggressive, I guess. Gosh, it would be really great if you took the garbage out. right? And so let's take this back a little bit and really just talk about the marathon training piece of it. Let's just say that you're training for a marathon, Ironman, anything big. Okay. So anything that requires more than 15 hours a week of training. Okay. 10 to 15 hours a week of training. Marathon training requires a lot, right? Most of us here know this. When you are training for a marathon, if it's just you know the boundaries to set. When you have someone else in your life that you have to consider, you have to know what you need to get that done. Again, in my personal journey, I had a great support crew when I was training for Ironman. I was already dating Dave, and my son was perfectly excited. He was actually really excited about me becoming an Ironman. He really wanted that for me, and he was 7 at the time. So he, like the weekends that I had my son, Dave would take him, out to the park. He would just come over and hang out or play video games with him so I could go ride for 6 hours. Guys, it was like that. It was, I had to set those boundaries, and we don't like to say, oh, I have to go running. I have to do a 20-mile run, or I have to do a 6-hour bike. When you are training for something that big, it does become a have to. Because if we don't put in that work, if we don't do those things, it becomes a question of whether or not we're going to get injured or even finish, right? So there are those issues. I had someone tell me at one point, and I believe that this also applies to marathon training to a point, but certainly for things like half and full Ironmans, your life has to be pretty boring. I think in order to do Ironman right and to really dedicate yourself to the training, your life you need to start getting a little bit bored, right? You're not selling a house, you're not moving, you're not starting a new job, you're not looking for, all of those big things that change, that cause change in our lives. We don't want to have a bunch of those on the table right now. So for example, last year I got married. That would not be the time, Ironman. This year, we're remodeling a house, not the time to train for something like that. So the whole point that I'm trying to make about this is that it becomes a question of communication, and it becomes a question of really identifying what your needs are. So you guys are so quiet in here. Struggling to find balance. Lacey, I'm so happy you're covering this topic. Struggling to find balance lately. I think balance is a lie. I think honestly, if we were to just really lay it out there, I honestly think that there is no such thing as true balance. And here's why I say that, because as soon as you achieve it, something else changes, right? There's something else that blows you off a little bit, right? Maybe that's just me. If any of you have actually, and I'm certainly unbalanced. Right here. Yes. Oh, Katie, babies have been a hot topic in my house these days. That sounds good. My kids are older, Lori says, and it is tough to find balance. And, Lori, that's a very good point too, because where else have I heard this? It's I get so many, great question. I get so many random quotes by osmosis, really, by watching other people's channels, by listening to podcasts. And I've heard this quote: little kids, little kid problems, big kids, big kid problems. So when we say that, we're talking about, babies and toddlers. Are they going to sleep through the night? Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Why are they, are they going to eat? How are they doing? Are they learning how to read, write, so on and so forth? But then when we get into the older kids, now we're talking about social interactions and adjustments and all of the changes that those little bodies are going through. And I think it gets tougher as they get older. So it's kind of, it's like we have, again, there is no such thing as balance because then they have a birthday, right? and all of a sudden, oh, you've gone from having, it seems overnight, you've gone from having an elementary school kid to a middle schooler or a high schooler. And life goes so fast. You have those little people for 18 years and then they're gone. So maximize that time. Okay. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier, Anne. Paris will be there when you're ready. If I'm not ready until my son goes to college, it's still going to be there. Is the half marathon still going to be there? I don't know. But being here for that little guy right there is, to me, more important right now. So that's my little parenting diatribe. I know this was big, right, you guys? I have about 1 hour a month where I feel balanced. Cynthia, exactly. Then something, yeah. You get a whole hour? I think I am constantly, I would be very bad at tightrope walking. I would plummet to my death on a repeated basis. So no, I know exactly that feeling, Cynthia. Yes. So how do you find a coach? Thank you so much for this question. Finding a coach, you can go a lot of different ways. First of all, I personally am a coach. I do not have a public business yet. However, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at kind of pushing into that a little bit more and finding a way to do that. I know a lot of coaches. There are so many resources out there. Finding a coach, I don't want to say it's like dating because but it kind of is. You want to know, it's like creating your relationship profile. So you want to know what you're looking for. You want to know what kind of athlete you are. Okay. Do you like to do high mileage? Are you a track runner? Are you doing short, fast distances? What kind of mileage do you do? Do you want someone that you can meet once a week, which means you would need to find somebody local? Do you want someone that you can do this online? Do you like group runs? Are you a solo runner? What motivates you? I've had coaches come. Yes, William, I saw that you just showed it. Yes, we talked a lot about this, William. So definitely go back and watch the first 20 minutes. I wanted to start that very, very early on. So finding a coach, I have had coaches that are that have a different philosophy. MK Fleming, her philosophy was heart rate training, and I highly recommend it. Okay, just as a source of information, because novice runners in particular, but many of us run too fast too frequently. And the point of heart rate training is to get you to slow down so you can run as often as you want without getting injured. That's one philosophy. That's heart rate training. You have the Run, Walk, Run program. That's Jeff Galloway. You can find coaches that will coach that way. You can find coaches who will have you running 6 days a week, or they'll have you running 4 days a week, 3 days a week. So what do you need? And then find those resources. Also, another big one is male or female. Okay. I had a male triathlon coach. He was great, but he did not understand I'm 15 years older than he is. He's younger, and he had no family. And at the time when I was training for Ironman, he did not understand all of the things that came with that. So when I would get burnt out in my training, I kind of threw him off a little bit because I would rant. I would just, if you want somebody that you can kind of vent to, that's good too. I like having a coach that I can vent to. How did I choose Christine? Christine Hinton developed the Plans in the Train Like a Mother book. And she is, so if you look that up, Train Like a Mother, that's how I found Christine. She has stepped away from the Mother Runners as a regular coach, but she still has a coaching business. Listening to her on the podcasts and all of those other things, like my personality gelled with her more than any other coach I've really ever talked to. My personality gelled with her the best. So when I could get on her client roster, that was a huge victory for me. She's female. She's about my age. She has had very similar life experiences. She's been divorced. She's got a son, and there is a lot there that we can, without even talking about it, there's shared experience. And to me, that's important. She's been coaching for a long time. I think when it comes to actually finding a coach, ask a lot of questions. And this is actually a really great topic that I will probably dig into a little bit in the future, because finding a coach, like I said, it's kind of like developing a relationship profile. You have to know who you are as a person and as an athlete and as a runner. And you need to really know what's going to motivate you. Are you motivated by someone who just cracks the whip and said, come on, come on, little Miss Slowpoke, let's get you moving. Like, that doesn't motivate me. That just makes me mad. And that makes me want to quit. But if you have someone at the side of the road cheering you on, saying, you look so great, and you feel like you're about to die, that's the kind of coach that I want. That's the kind of motivation I need, because I'm like, I do feel like I'm okay, good. Somebody thinks I'm good. So, okay. And that keeps me going. Okay. So what does your cheerleader look like? Because a coach is also supposed to be, it's funny. Coaches can also be kind of a therapist. And, all of those things that an athlete, someone who's designing your training programs, what they are not, more often than not, with few exceptions, what they are not is a doctor. So if you have injury, yes, Christine also has a sense of humor. Boy, howdy does she. But I think that's why I love her, because we have a very similar sense of humor. So, Dave, there's no crying and running, then I'm not a runner. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, because guess what? I was bawling my head off on the course on Sunday. Mm-hmm. All right, so I want to go back and see what people are saying. I just told my friend that the topic today is parenting and running and how I didn't need it. She said, but you have all of us. Yes, you have a family. Even if you have like a support crew. And Linda's waiting for me to start the coaching. I know. So yeah, let me take that piece of it. Me opening the doors for the coaching thing. If you guys were following me back in January, you know how nervous I was about this. And I'm still nervous about it. Like, I'm still just putting a toe in the water, trying this over here, and just making sure I know what I'm doing. There's a bigger picture here. Like I was saying earlier, the balance, okay? There's the challenge of balancing this, the video, the parenting piece, and now the coaching. It's one more big hat. Yes, they seem like they could bleed together, the YouTube channel and all of this and the coaching. I think there is a level of that, but with coaching one-on-one, you have a different, because it is one-on-one, you are pouring a lot of time and energy in one direction. I do anyway, because because of how I concentrate, I need multiple hours in a row to really kind of develop a thought process. Once I get the thought train started, please don't get in my way, because I can't concentrate for a while. Good. I'm glad that was helpful. Thank you so much. What else are we saying? So as far as the coaching is concerned, it is going to happen eventually. That's as far as I can go. I think balance is like playing the bass line of, oh yeah, Laura, all of a sudden, that's just so cool. I think balance is like playing the bass line of the Mission Impossible theme. I was a band geek too. What'd you play? Yeah, you lock it in and you run with it. You don't think, you don't hesitate, or it will fall apart. Right. Balance, but see, balance too is just like, okay, I've got it. Oh, it's gone. Then you have to find it again and get it all balanced up. And then, okay, I got it. Done. Okay. Right. So we have to constantly refine. Played trombone. My husband plays trombone. I played saxophone. So alto sax. Yes. I was a marching band geek. Yes. Yay, clarinet. Oh, we've got a trio here going, guys. Alyssa, great question. I don't understand how heart rate works if you live in a hot and humid climate. Yeah. Yes. Wouldn't you just be walking during every run? If you are exclusively following heart rate training, and this was my issue with heart rate training, was there, again, I went through a huge evolution around heart rate training. It was a big deal to learn what an easy run felt like. That was the victory out of the whole thing. If you are in a hot and humid climate, yes. Are you walking during every run? I think that's a really good question for someone who does a little bit more in the heart rate training, but MK Fleming's answer to that isn't necessarily wrong, but then you get up super, super early. Yes, if it's 70 degrees when you get up in the morning, then you are slowing down quite a bit. If you're following, Alyssa, the 140, the Maffetone method, where you're trying to keep your heart rate under 140, that's one thing. What I determined, and this was for me, so please take this with a grain of salt. You wish it was 70. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a challenge, right? You have, you could go inside on the treadmill, because that's always exciting, right? But I have also found with running on a treadmill, there can't be enough air conditioning. You can't make the room cool enough for me to be comfortable, right? Yeah, you guys down south, it's still hot. I mean, we still have 95 today up here. That's when I was doing this 2 years ago, toward the end of the summer, and it was still hot, I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning so I could get my run in before sunrise. It's one of the many reasons why I don't train like this anymore, exclusively use the heart rate training anymore. So that's one way. Unfortunately, if it's not even 70 degrees, if it's over 70 already, then are you out to walk those miles? I wish I had a safe answer for you. I would just go out and run by feel. To me, that's what I would do. If I were your coach, I would just say, you know what? Go out, run by feel, keep it slow. Your heart rate is going to skyrocket, right? When you get into the cooler times, cooler seasons, you'll see those heart rates start to come down, but your pace will stay the same. Okay. How long have you been running by heart rate exclusively, or I'm just curious. You guys are, yeah, go by feel. That's, again, this is one of the reasons why I love Christine so much, is that she understands what the heart rate training does, but she also understands that in order for it to be so specific and so stay within that little box of under 140 beats per minute, which is, again, not bad, but my personal physiology is different enough. I actually had to bump that up to 150. So I could still run those easy, super easy runs, run all day pace, and keep my heart rate under 150. But Christine is like, you know what? Just run by feel. Run by feel. Don't worry about your heart rate. Then, because every little condition changes what your heart rate's going to do. So our physiology is so reactive to the temperature, the humidity. You guys are talking about that. Altitude, whether or not you got enough sleep, whether or not you're hydrated. There are so many factors that go into an effective heart rate training. It's not to say it's bad. I really think that it's huge to say that this is my easy run. Before I started heart rate training, I was consistently running 11-minute miles, and it was killing me. I mean, I thought I was going to die after every single run. That's not the point when you're running 5 days a week. That's pushing it. That drops you right into that overtraining hole super fast. Okay. If you're running more than 4 days a week, meaning you don't take a day off in between runs, getting down into that low heart rate, super easy, is what's going to keep those runs going. You'll be able to do that more frequently. I get bored when I have to run. I think that was the other issue when my first go around through the Dopey Challenge training with heart rate. I just got bored running 5 days a week. That was a lot of running. And yes, if you're training for the Dopey Challenge, you want to run a lot back to back. But I had a train of thought. It's gone. What was I saying? I've had to seriously work hard on slowing down for marathon dopey training. That's what I was saying. Thank you, Cindy. Reminded me what I was doing. When I started heart rate training, I realized I dropped to a 15-minute mile to keep my heart rate under 140. And even then, I had trouble doing that. So for that whole training season, I eventually switched it to keeping it under 150, and that helped a little bit. Since then, and it has taken 2 years, guys. It has taken 2 years to get to a point where I am running at under 140 beats per minute at a 12:30 pace. But that's only if it's 52 degrees outside. Okay. The other thing, too, that affects heart rate is whether or not the sun is out. Run by feel, use heart rate as a metric. And I talked a little bit about this on, in the Garmin video the other day. When you have heart rate against pace, and you can look at that over time. If you have, after your run, you go in, what was your average heart rate? You just take a look at that data point, right? What you'll see is as you start, you warm up, you warm up, you warm up. There's also this thing called cardiac drift. As you keep going, your heart rate's going to keep rising and rising and rising, even if you stay at the same effort. Okay. There's a challenge there. So if you're planning on keeping consistent with a 13-minute pace, eventually, if you're out there long enough, that heart rate's just going to keep rising and rising and rising. So many factors go into heart rate training. And again, I'm certainly not dismissing it. I do think it's an extremely important metric. But I also think that you can look at that metric in conjunction. And especially for those of you guys that are living down south where it's, you feel like it's the surface of the sun and you feel like your flesh is going to melt off, right? Guys, this is where this is a great question. Heather, do you use the 220 age formula? I do not. And because using that puts me at 175. And I can tell you, 220 minus your age puts me at 175, which I will hit in any tempo run. My threshold heart rate, and I need to get this checked again. I need to go in and do a kind of a treadmill test, but I check it myself. Last I checked, my running lactate threshold was 191. Okay, my max heart rate is somewhere around 210. So 220 minus your age, take it or leave it. I personally have never had success with it, even way back, going way back machine when I started training under, the Sally Edwards method with triathlon. No, that it never worked for me. And if you have the means to determine that yourself and manually measure that out, and I think I actually do have plans to talk about this in a future video, because that 220 is a challenge to really follow with. Other questions you guys are having. I love how you guys are arguing about where it's hotter. It was so funny. It was 95 here. Yes. It was 95 here before I left. It's 95 here. Actually, it's only in the 80s today. But when I went to Seattle, it was 50s, 60s and rainy. It felt so good. It was really nice. It rained on race day, like pouring down rain. It's not hot in Texas. It's raining. 220 minus my age would have me walking very, very slowly. Here's the other thing. Excuse me, you guys. The other thing is that I will hit a start line, not be moving about heart rate, right? Not be moving at all. And I'm so excited that it's hitting 150. I have done nothing. And I'm so excited. My heart rate's already up to 150. And then I start running and it might stay there for a while. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you, Dave. Well done on your race. The race was interesting. Again, the full recap to come. Well, mostly, we had such a phenomenal time in Seattle. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was a ridiculous, the day that we actually got to dress up as blurches. I know some of you guys follow me on social media and in the Joyful Miles Running Club. That was so fun. So Karen and I were just chasing people saying, slow down, have some birthday cake. It was so fun. It was quite fun. I didn't. Oh, I see what you're asking. I didn't. That was the way, those weren't miles. Those were splits and they were half-mile splits. The way I programmed my Garmin, and this is something I haven't quite, yes, that's exactly it. So the way I programmed my Garmin was 6.5 miles because it was the out uphill. And I wanted to manage that differently than the downhill. So at 6.5 miles, I had my Garmin switch over to a different pace. So the way it flipped it, so it counted miles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then that half mile was one split. So if you look at it, if you look at that list of splits, those, minute splits, there are 15 of them, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half, and then 3.5 because that was my next program. And then the last 5K. So that's why it looks a little wonky, but it was still, they were 5-minute half miles. So I was still maintaining the pace. No, I did not qualify for the Olympics. That was just me, you know, and it was interesting. Guys, if you ever have a chance to run up there, holy moly. Now, see, I live in the high plains of Denver. It is very dry and sparse out here. There's not a, I mean, there's vegetation, but it's not bright green and, you know, flowery. The Pacific Northwest. Is anybody in here from there? Oh my goodness. It was spectacular. I'm coming over, I mean, Mount Rainier's off the outside the window on the plane, both coming and going. I land in Seattle and everything is so green and there's so much water. And it was just so different. And it just felt so good to be there. And I went to sea level. So life is good there. So that was, I loved that race. It was everything I expected. I'm glad. Here's the thing. My big miles, hard miles are done now. I'm taking a short break. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's green. And it's not so much now. We have a lot of natural gas, but yeah, it's not green. Not very much so. So I enjoyed that race. It was a nice cap to what has really been a very long training season. So since January, since the Dopey Challenge was over, I was looking at, let's go through them. Ogden half, Boulder, Slacker, Fortitude, Lurch. 5 races in 4 months. To me, that's overdoing it. That is way overdoing it. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going down to Wine and Dine. That's, hi Heather, it's Luis from Brazil. Yasso 800s. You know, I know enough about them to be dangerous and probably give you a terrible answer. What is a Yasso 800? You are running, William, would you drop those in there? Just quick describe what those are. If I'm thinking of it right, you do 10 by 800. Each of those needs to be at the same heart, whatever can sustain for that 800. And that is an indicator very similar to what the Magic Mile is. It's an indicator of what your marathon pace, half marathon pace would be. There are equations out there. I've never done them myself. I've heard that they're pretty accurate. If you do them properly, they're pretty accurate. If you're going to do them for the Dopey, the only reason I would caution against doing it is you're looking at miles and miles and miles and miles and not necessarily speed. Unless you're going into the Dopey Challenge and you want to hit some hard times, okay? If you really want to work that, each one of those and do as best as you can and go as hard as you can, Yasso 800s are a great way to do that. The reason I caution that is that when you're running so many days in a row in a training plan, maybe a couple of times oh, that's okay. I wasn't sure what you were saying there, Dave. Maybe a couple of times you can do those, but I personally, if you were my client, let me say it this way, Louise, if you were my client, I probably wouldn't program a lot of those. Just because it's about the mileage and not so much the speed, because you're spending so much dang time on your feet, right? Dave, no, that is not where Dynasty was set. And I think well, maybe it was, but Dallas is the one that's oil country down in Texas. So yeah. Run 800s. Okay, run 800s, build to 10. So you start with a few, just a few. Average time for the 800s. Once you can do 10, your average time, okay, if you run a 10 by 800 and average 4 minutes each, you can do a 4-hour marathon. That's pretty interesting. I might have to try those. Actually, that's been on my list to try. I have a lot of things that I want to try for that, just to show you how to do these. I don't have easy access to a track, which is another hard thing. I could probably figure out what 800s are. I'm exhausted just reading that. Oh, Dynasty is set in Denver. I didn't know that. I never watched it. Is that the new? Yeah, I never watched it. I think I watched Dallas twice because my dad lived in Dallas. I didn't understand the whole soap opera concept. All right, guys, we are coming up on 1 o'clock. Any quick questions that anything you want me to cover in a future video? Both new and old. Linda, you are so smart. Thank you for checking that. I didn't know that. I had no idea. No, there is oil out here, but it's not very green. That was the Pack NW. So guys, I'm going to sign off here in a minute. What's coming up? What is coming up? It's 7 p.m. Yes, I know. I get it. I get it. I get it. What is coming up on Tuesday? Well, I've got the Blurch recap coming up on Sunday, and I've got this great video. This topic, I should say. Somebody had posted in one of the Facebook groups about the 7 don'ts of goofy and dopey training. And I loved it so much, I actually pushed everything else back that I was going to do this coming week so I could talk about this. If anybody in here is in the Dopey Challenge 2019 Facebook group, Lee Hodel will, that was a post by Lee Hodel. He's a coach. 7 don'ts of training. I loved it. It just resonated so much with me that I thought, I've got to talk about this. So that's coming on Tuesday. All right. Thanks for being you, Heather. Oh, Katie, you're so sweet. Guys, so I know, Anne, you're headed to Paris. Have fun. Report back, guys. Let me know how, and you need to pack. You need to pack. You're leaving tomorrow. Okay, folks. I think I'm going to sign off unless somebody else has any other questions. Thank you guys for being here. That was fun today. We had some deep conversation, right? Please hit the thumbs up before you head out. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe. Share this with folks. Yes. See, the Dopey group, it's like there's this support crew by osmosis, right? We're all in this group. We all ended up training for the same thing. We all started video channels at the same time, and now we're all friends. So, oh, neat. You're going to Kentucky for a race. That'll be fun. All right, folks, have a great evening or afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, because it's fall here, and I'm going to keep saying fall. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Go find your awesome. Happy running.